This is the second of 4 recordings about Chapter 12. We're going to talk about impairments of intangible assets. So there's different treatment if this is limited life, unlimited life, or goodwill. So there's 3 different ways you can do this impairment calculation. So for limited life intangibles, we will do the 2-step process like we did in Chapter 11. So you compare the undiscounted expected future cash flows to the carrying value. If you pass that, there's no issue. If the carrying value is higher than the undiscounted expected future cash flows, you go to the second step where you compare the fair value of the asset to the carrying value and adjust. Here's an example. So this company has a patent. The expected future net cash flows are $35 million. The carrying amount is $60 million. So they have an impairment of the asset. So they're going to have to go forward and do the second step where they compare the fair value of the asset to the carrying value to determine the loss of impairment. So we have a $40 million loss on impairment. Okay. Impairment of indefinite life intangibles other than goodwill. There's just a straightforward fair value test. So you test fair value against carrying value, and you don't have to do the recoverability test. So in this example, we have a broadcast license. It's indefinite life. So the carrying value $2 million, fair value 1.5. There's an impairment of $500,000. Now, impairment of goodwill. It's again a 2-step process, but it's different to the recoverability 2-step process we have. So the first step, you're going to compare the fair market value of the entity and compare that to the carrying value of the entity. If you fail that, then we compute the fair value of the, take the fair value of the company, subtract the carrying value of everything except the goodwill, and come up with the implied goodwill, and we compare that to the carrying amount. I think I may not have said that right, so let's just double check on the next page. So 4 years ago, they paid $2 million, and currently this is the carrying value, $2.4 million. The fair value is currently 1.9. So the first test, compare the carrying value to the fair value, and we fail this because the carrying value is higher. So we need to go on to the second step. Okay, once we're in the second step, we're going to take the fair value, we're going to take the carrying value minus the goodwill, so it's everything but the goodwill. That gives us implied goodwill. So it's implied because the fair value is, if we subtract everything except the goodwill, it implies that that difference is goodwill. So there's a $400,000 implied goodwill. The carrying value of the goodwill is $900,000, so we have to impair it $500,000. This is just the summary of the type of intangible and the impairment test that you use. Here's some examples. So Kennedy Corporation owns a patent with carrying amount of $300,000. The expected future cash flows are $210,000. So step 1, recoverability, we fail. We have to go on to step 2. Step 2, we're comparing the fair market value to the carrying value, and we see that we need to impair this by $190,000. In the second one, we have recorded goodwill. So the fair value of the company is $1 million. The carrying value is $800,000. And since the fair value is more than the carrying value, there's no issue. So we have to do no entry for the second transaction. The first one, we are recording a loss on impairment. Research and development.